The humid air of Lagos didn't stifle Kahinde, it fueled him. While his brother Taiwo held the iron grip over the streets of Seoul, Kahinde had turned the Nigerian operations into a legitimate global powerhouse. But as he stood on the balcony of the Obsidian Tower, looking out over the Atlantic, the cold calculation that usually occupied his mind felt heavy. He had conquered the markets, but the silence of his private life was starting to echo. His mother, Nia, had told him once, "A king can build a castle, but only a queen can make it a home." He hadn't understood her then, he understood her now. Everything changed during the construction of the new Dragon Port in Echo Atlantic. Kahinde had rejected 3 architectural designs until a young woman named Adanna marched into his boardroom. She wasn't draped in the expensive silks of the high society elite. She wore a simple blazer and carried a digital blueprint that was bolder than anything Kahinde had ever seen. Adanna was a firebrand from Anubu, a brilliant architect who didn't care about Kahinde's reputation as the brain of the Dragon Alliance. When he tried to intimidate her with a lower contract price, she simply rolled up her blueprints and walked toward the door. "Mr. Kahinde," she said, her voice like smooth mahogany, "you can find someone cheaper to build you a warehouse, but if you want to build a monument that survives your legacy, you'll call me back when you're ready to pay for quality." Kahinde was stunned. For the first time in his life, someone had walked away from him. It was the spark he hadn't known he was looking for. He didn't just call her back, he invited her to dinner. Their courtship was a whirlwind of intellect and passion. Adanna matched his strategic mind with her creative fire. She saw past the young master of a crime syndicate and saw the man who wanted to build something that didn't require a gun to protect. When he finally brought her to the family estate to meet Minho and Nia, his mother took one look at Adanna's defiant eyes and smiled. "She's the one," Nia whispered. The wedding was the event of the decade in Nigeria. It was a spectacular traditional ceremony, a sea of vibrant green and gold gele and agbada. Under the Lagos sunset, Kahinde, the man who once thought only in numbers and risks, took Adanna's hand and made a vow that had nothing to do with business. As the drums rolled and the celebration began, Kahinde caught Nia's eye. She looked at her son, now a husband, and then at Taiwo, who stood as the best man, looking unusually thoughtful as he watched his brother's happiness. The first branch of the new legacy had been grafted, and the dragon's blood was beginning to flow into a new generation. While Kahinde found peace in the Lagos sun, Taiwo returned to the biting winter of Seoul. He was the muscle, the enforcer, the one whose tattoos told a story of blood and survival. But after standing as best man at his brother's wedding, the cold streets of Gangnam felt emptier than before. The violence that used to satisfy him now felt like a chore. He was a king of the underground, yet he was still a man living in his father's shadow. The change began on a snowy night when a high-speed chase ended in a brutal crash. Taiwo, ever the frontline leader, had sustained a deep gash across his chest, one that required more than just the office medical kit. He was rushed to a private clinic used by the elite, where he met Dr. Elena Vance. Elena was a brilliant trauma surgeon from Switzerland, working in Seoul on a prestigious medical exchange. When she walked into the trauma room, she didn't see a crime lord or the heir to the Dragon Alliance. She saw a man losing blood. As she worked to stitch the wound near his heart, Taiwo watched her. Her skin was as pale as the snow outside, her eyes a steady, piercing blue. She didn't flinch at his tattoos or the older scars that crisscrossed his body. "You have a lot of history on your skin," she said calmly, her voice a soft contrast to the sterile beeping of the monitors. "Most people are afraid of that history," Taiwo rasped. Elena paused, meeting his dark gaze. "I'm a surgeon, Mr. Park. I see what's underneath the skin. And right now, underneath all of this, you look like you're tired of fighting." Taiwo was floored. For the first time, someone hadn't been intimidated by his strength or impressed by his power. She had seen his exhaustion. Over the next few months, Taiwo found himself making excuses to visit the clinic. He traded the smoke-filled clubs for quiet tea houses with Elena. She taught him that true strength wasn't about who could strike the hardest, but who had the courage to heal. She became his sanctuary, the only person who could make the sledgehammer of the alliance feel gentle. 6 months after Kahinde's wedding, the Dragon Alliance gathered once more, but this time in the heart of Seoul. The wedding was a masterpiece of winter elegance. The grand ballroom of the Shilla Hotel was transformed into a crystal palace of white roses and ice sculptures. Elena was a vision in a lace gown that trailed behind her like a cloud, a stark and beautiful contrast to Taiwo's sharp black tuxedo. As they stood at the altar, Minho and Nia watched from the front row. Minho saw the same look in Taiwo's eyes that he had felt when he first met Nia, a look of a man who had finally found his North Star. When they were pronounced husband and wife, the applause shook the room. The two halves of the Dragon Alliance were finally complete, anchored by love across 2 continents. 5 years later, the code black burner phones were nothing more than museum pieces kept in a glass case at the family estate. The Dragon Alliance had undergone its final, most difficult transformation. It had become a sovereign family legacy, its wealth now tied to global infrastructure, medical foundations, and the very architecture of the cities they once ruled. In Lagos, Kahinde and Adana had built a home that was a marvel of modern design. But the house was rarely quiet. They had been blessed with 3 children, a fierce eldest daughter named Nia, who possessed her grandmother's sharp tongue, and twin boys who seemed to have inherited Kahinde's strategic patience. Adanna's influence had turned the family's Nigerian holdings into the backbone of a new African industrial era, but she always made sure that the brain of the family took his weekends off to play in the sand with his children. In Seoul, Taiwo and Elena had found a different kind of peace. Taiwo, once the most feared man on the peninsula, was now known primarily as the patron of the Vance Park Medical Research Center. They had 2 sons, both of whom had their father's dark, intense eyes and their mother's compassionate heart. Elena had taught Taiwo that the greatest protection he could provide wasn't with a gun, but by building a world where his sons wouldn't need one. Once a year, the family converged on the private island Minho had purchased years ago. It was the only time the 2 worlds truly merged into one. The final evening of their latest reunion was a scene that Nia and Minho once thought impossible. The long table on the terrace was filled with a vibrant tapestry of people. Adanna and Elena sat together, laughing as they compared the stubbornness of their husbands. The grandchildren, representing a beautiful blend of Korean, Nigerian, and European heritage, ran across the grass, their laughter piercing the humid, tropical air. Taiwo and Kahinde stood at the edge of the terrace, each holding a glass of wine, watching their children play. They didn't look like warlords. They looked like men who had finally understood the value of what they had fought to protect. "We multiplied," Taiwo said, a rare, soft smile breaking across his scarred face. "We did more than that," Kahinde replied, looking at the ring on his finger. "We survived the shadows so they could live in the sun." Behind them, Minho and Nia stood in the doorway, watching the scene. Minho wrapped an arm around Nia's shoulders, his touch no longer a shackle, but a source of strength. They had started with a single night of defiance in a Mercedes, endured exile, and fought through fire. As the sun set over the horizon, painting the sky in the same violent shades of orange and purple Nia remembered from Lagos, the dragon and his queen finally walked away from the balcony and toward the table. The empire was gone, replaced by something far more powerful, a family that would never be broken again.
Mug on the table, steam drawing circles, your chair like you might come back, like you weren't sure. I replay every word you said, fold them like letters in my head. If this is goodbye, why does it feel half done? I'm forever in love with you, even if the world moves on. I stay caught between the then and now, holding every almost, every nearly, every day. You can turn your back and walk, but my heart doesn't know what to do, so it keeps this simple truth. I'm forever in love with you. Friends say I'm healing, say I should open the door. I nod like I'm trying, but I'm still on our floor, counting the times where we danced in the dark. Your laugh in the kitchen, the crack in my heart. If I could turn 1 second back to where your fingers trace my hand, would you choose me twice, or leave it all the same? I'm forever in love with you, even if the world moves on. I stay caught between the then and now, holding every almost, every nearly, every day. You can turn your back and walk, but my heart doesn't know what to do, so it keeps this simple truth. I'm forever in love with you. Maybe in another life, you're waiting at the station. No last minute silence, just you saying stay. But this is the story we wrote, torn page, unfinished quote. I'll whisper your name to the night, let the echo answer back. I'm forever in love with you, even when your footsteps fade from view. All the crowd